Hey there, welcome to The Good Edit, and thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of The Curious Case of Erika Jayne. In this episode, Chris and I take a deep dive and we look at 4 father figures who helped shape Erika long before the spotlight: her biological father, her 2 grandfathers, and her stepfather. And each of these relationships were important. Through their presence, through their absence, through their protection, and through their discipline, they helped Erika form an understanding of what it meant to be strong and independent and also to survive. And together, they offer critical context for the guarded, unapologetic woman that we see today. So join us as we unpack and discuss how these early influences helped define Erika way before the fame, way before the edit, and before everything changed. Enjoy! Hey, you. What's going on?
Hey, you. Hey.
I
Good to
like
see
the
your
radio
face.
voice. Hey, you.
Hey, you.
Happy
Channeling
holidays,
my
Mary.
inner,
Huh?
channeling
What did
my inner Ryan Seacrest. No, just kidding.
You know what? You're not far from it. You've got that charisma. He's got
The
incredible charisma.
charisma.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. It's almost
Same to
that
you.
time. How are you feeling about it? I think it's rough for both of us, actually.
I mean, you know, I think holidays are always difficult for a lot of people. And just for me this year, it's the first. I'm going back to Pennsylvania where my family lives. My
Yeah.
my father passed away in April, and the last time I was home to visit was during that time. So to go back during the holidays right now and to leave my kids here to go back because I know it's an important Christmas for me to be with my sister and my nephews, my brother-in-law, my mom. My mom is still alive, which I'm very, very, very grateful for. To go back and to see them and to have time with them, it's going to help reignite probably a little of the emptiness that I probably feel this year. But I will tell you, we did some traditions with our kids over this past weekend. We celebrated Christmas early. My kids were very, very understanding of why I can't be around this year. And my dad just I know your dad was your best friend. For me, my sister is my best friend, and my dad gave me her. And what talk about a legacy that just lives on. I literally have pajamas already waiting for me on the bed. So, I mean, I have my
Trying to make it
schedule.
nice for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even through her own trauma and her own grief, she's still putting me ahead of herself. And that's just who she is. And my dad was that exact same person. And just what a privilege to go back and to continue some of the traditions and I understand family even more than I ever thought I did in the past. Anybody out there who lost anybody this past year or in your family in years prior,
Yeah.
the holidays, they do tug at the heartstrings. And all I can say is it's not about things ever being the same. It's really taking that person or whoever you lost, taking those traditions and really taking them to the next level for the next generations. And that's what I'm going to do. So
It
tell me
sounds
about
it,
you.
well, yeah, I just wanted to name it. Sounds like your father's legacy lives on in your sister, and he's left little attributes of himself within you guys, and you guys are kind of carrying that on. It reminds me, uh well, yeah, this Christmas is different. This is the second Christmas I'm spending without my dad. And it gets better. It gets it doesn't want to say it gets better, but you lean into the new normal really easier as time goes by. Not easy, but easier as the time goes by. But what's interesting about what you said is that I was just at a funeral yesterday. My sorority sister Melinda. Hey Melinda, her mother passed away, and she said something super interesting and moving while reading the obituary. She was talking about her mother's attributes and different personality features, and she said, if you wanted to know who my mother it was, look at me, look at my brother. We are the woman that she was. And it reminded me of when my father passed away. He looked at me and he says, you're my legacy. And the one attribute that he was most proud of was the fact that I really leaned into, like he, not really judging people too much, and I say too much because we all judge, but
We
not
all
judging
do.
in a way without understanding the power of grace and the power of being human. And that's how I live my life. And this is what we both, I believe, our fathers probably emphasize that with us. That's what we're bringing to this project, is just the power of grace. Um, and in talking about Erika, speaking of the power of grace, I was on like a dummy on Reddit this morning, and there was a thread basically excuse my language, but talking about how shitty Erica was. And my thing is like, okay, if we're gonna talk about how shitty she was, let's talk about the shitty circumstances that she was kind of born
What's the
into.
why?
Yeah, what's the why? Let's get to the shit of the shit, why the shit became the shit, if that's what we're leading with, right? And so it's kind of interesting. We're going to be talking about her fathers today, and she talks very poignantly in chapter 3 of her book, The Pretty Mess, dedicates a whole chapter about the father figures in her life. Super important because what we know is our parental schema, our father-daughter relationship, our father-son relationship, in this case, can really contextualize who we are, how we show up in the world, how we move, how we think. And I believe the same is true for Erica. She had 4 pivotal men that were considered father figures in her life. She had
Wow.
her Renee's dad, Hollis, her paternal grandfather, her biological father, whose name is Nicholas, and then her stepfather, John. Now, what's interesting about these 4 men is that there's a thread of commonality that they all share. 3 out of 4 of these men abandoned her, and a couple of them abandoned her twice, right? And I'm not laughing. It's just like, wow, okay, that's a lot. That is a lot for one person, um, to take. And
The
so
process.
and to process for sure and to experience at such a young age, right? And so, you and I have both worked in fields. I worked as a child therapist, you worked as in counselor, and you pour into people as well as in education and kind of have that counselor role. But what we know is that in both of our occupations, I'm sure we have come across children, for example, who have experienced abandonment. And the research says that there's all these different kind of symptoms or pathologies, if you will, that can occur within a person as a result of paternal abandonment. And that looks like being overly promiscuous and vulnerable, low levels of self-esteem, anxiety, jealousy, skepticism towards men. These are some of the negative attributes that can often surface when one experiences abandonment. But on the other hand, abandonment doesn't always have to yield negative qualities. There's also research to show that strength can be developed from those situations. And so there's positive outcomes such as being resilient and independent, seeking positive role models, being really super motivated to achieve. And whether
And
your
I think
father
those
was,
things are important. Well, I think those things are important because I think it's very important to highlight the positives. But we always say the wounds of adolescence take
ooh, I like
so
that.
long to heal, right? So, for those of us that are raising kids, and we are all, those of us that are probably listening to this podcast are once at one time a teenager, I can still remember some of those wounds from adolescence, from some of the things that you just said right now. And when your brain isn't fully developed, you don't really fully understand the why that you react a certain way or why trauma comes up later. And when we look at Erika Jayne, as much as I see the resiliency and I see the independence and I see the seeking positive role models, there's one area where she kind of gets hit on, and not in
Hmm.
a good way,
Right.
from a lot of people. They keep talking about her lack of empathy. Well, your lack of empathy is going to come from you're going to put up a wall. And when you put
Hmm.
up a wall because of empty promises that were made to you, and the home is this structure, and you and I know this. It is your safe space, it's your sanctuary, especially to an adolescent. So if that's being taken away from you, of course, you're going to have a different personality. You're going to have a different perspective of maybe those of us that had a quote, and I don't even know if I want to say normal anymore. I don't know if I want to say regular, but
Or more
you had the
traditional.
ability, traditional. Let's just go there, right?
Yeah.
Because traditional is not always better, but at the same time, when you are going through adolescence, and you want those traditions. Traditions are almost a safety net for you. So when those are taken away and you're not fully really able to understand what you're going through, of course you're going to react differently. And as you get into adulthood, you might behave a different way. And if you lack empathy, it doesn't mean that you don't care. I think it's almost more of a, this is my strength. I need to use this lack of empathy, not putting it down, but I want to teach other people. Look how strong I am. And I almost view it that way, as in that they're cold. I almost view it
Mhm.
as, well, you must have gone through a lot of, and I'm going to swear here, a lot of shit to have that mindset. And I think that's exactly what happened with her.
I think so too. I mean, yes, she could have easily developed some of these negative attributes that the research speaks of. But it seems to me that, the more I read about her and analyze, and then the deep analyst, the deep research that
That's
we
you.
did on how she became who she did, she had more positive outcomes than negative. To your point, she really struggled with that empathy gene. And because one of the factors that prevent having some of these negative outcomes that result from having an absent father is having a supportive environment, having mentorship, having a quality of supportive people in your life, and having those people give you space to emotionally process difficult feelings, emotionally process how to express anger in a healthy way among a cohort of trusted adults. That leads to empathy. And if you read her book and you kind of pay attention to some of the things that she has confessed in her confessionals, it doesn't really sound like she was really given space to process difficult emotions and to express those feelings. And therefore, her ability, very possibly, to emote empathy, not that it doesn't exist, but
Well,
the ability to emote empathy may or may not be, she has never been given permission to emote empathy. So it's just like, how do I do it now as an adult?
mm-mm. And by the way, I don't know about you, but when we talk about showing anger in a healthy way, I'm 45 and I'm still dealing with that. I mean, so I
Yeah.
think we have to at some point go, when you already have the cards stacked against you for whatever reason they are, whatever it is, when you're not using that up front here's the reason, because Erica did not do that. As a matter of fact, that was something only very few people, I think, knew of her. And I know she wrote the book, and that took time for her to do that, to really tell her story. And I think a big part of that was because of the misunderstandings, because so many people were going, well, why is she so cold? And what's this going on? And this and that. If it was a man, I think we'd be having a different conversation right now. This whole notion of a woman that is not showing all of her emotions up front, this notion of a woman that can be strong, that can be guarded, that has gone through so many other obstacles. Lacking empathy isn't a female thing or a male thing. That's just a trait that we have. But with women, man, if you lack empathy, I don't think you get the grace that if it was a man. So I just kind of go back and forth with that a little bit. And I think, well, when you understand the why and what she's been through, and look what you just said, she just had four father figures. And by the way, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you had four. However, were they four healthy ones? Because if they're not, then those
Yep.
wounds, especially when you're
You
going through adolescence and you're going through those formative years, the minute you start giving your trust to someone who's within your home, within your boundaries, and then they wind up not holding their end of the bargain, of course, you're going to have issues later on in life. Of course, you're going to have trouble, whether it's male, female, anybody going, an adult going, your word might not mean anything. And you know what?
right.
To me, that means she's listening.
Yeah, and
She's paying
the
attention.
abandonment and the empty promises had the potential to really amplify any scarring that happened due to 4 people, 3 out of 4 of these men in her lives, and if you include Tom, I guess it is 4 out of 4, 4 out of 5 abandoning her, but the impact
But
was
not
really
six,
minimized.
seven. Yes, I
The
went there.
impact
Sorry.
was really impact was really 6, 7, I don't what's 6, 7?
We can get to that later. My kids, if they see
Okay.
this, will go, I can't believe he got that into the podcast. Anyway, yes.
If not if not for her, let's first give it up to Renee providing that stable
Sure.
home for her, and despite being difficult, advocating for her and never putting men before her, which is, doesn't happen, sometimes doesn't happen when single moms raise,
Yeah.
kids. her grandfather, Hollis, Renee's dad, being a stable figure, and as we'll come to understand, her stepfather stepped in and was a safe harbor for her as well, who really saw her early in her childhood. If not for all of those things, she might have that entire litany of negative attributes that we just listed off. But Hollis was her, was Renee's dad, and she thought very fondly of him. So he would be, considered father figure number one. But then we have that paternal grandfather whom she never, well, she met one time. She met one time. I guess he came to a birthday party and gave her, she describes as a little carousel that she loved so much. It doesn't
Okay.
sound like she had a strong recollection of him other than she was told that he was a very tall man. He grew up in northern Georgia. He joined the military, and I suppose the urban legend is that he served as Dwight Eisenhower's personal assistant.
The
Okay.
president.
Yeah, yeah, the president.
I just wanted to
So
say that.
yeah. So here's where it gets interesting. So when he was in Miami, he meets this she describes a Mayan woman, very small and petite Mayan woman named Esther. And by the way, Esther sounded absolutely fabulous. Okay, so not only did she
I
own
want to
or
meet her.
inherit a coffee plantation in El Salvador, it was called the Esperanza, but and she inherited that after her first husband died. But guess what?
What?
She walked around in a chinchilla long fur coat every day.
Like this? No, just
Yes,
kidding.
and she got and she got I and she had glam every day. She got glam every
Oh, who does
day,
that sound like? Who does that
and she
sound
was
like,
never not
Elle?
fabulous,
I don't
right?
know. Glam.
So, I wanna know more about Esther, but anyway, okay, so back to her grandfather. So anyway, so he marries Esther, he helps run the plantation, and then somewhere in all of this, or at least the way the story was told to her, was that communists were rampaging through El Salvador, and they seized grandma's plantation.
No.
And so
Mm-mm.
in the middle of the night, her grandfather got his 3 sons together, which was one of them was Erica's father, Nicholas, ran through the jungle, got him on a plane, and they left for the United States and landed in Georgia.
Of all places. Of all places. Just get me to
Now
the deep south, right? Get me somewhere, right?
exactly, exactly. So so while in
Wow.
Georgia, she describes her uncles, including her father, as just raising
Okay.
hell, running around Georgia with sawed-off shotguns and just raising all kind just rebels at their core, at their
Could
core.
you I mean, do you wonder why? I mean, because they're probably going through the forests of Georgia thinking it's the jungles in El Salvador. I mean, there's a little PTSD going on there. I mean, we've got to give them a little grace now. The shotgun thing,
Right, right, right. So they
but
they
yeah,
sounded like a load of fun. They sounded like a load of fun. So that
literally, like,
yeah, yeah, and so Nicholas, her father, was not to be messed with,
okay.
okay?
Well, not to be messed with. And look, because I know there's a lot from the
Sounds
book,
familiar.
but there is a excerpt from the book that I love. Okay. And by the way, so I want to read it because that's the educator in me and I love it. However, um, when you like, I think there's three emotions that come out by the time I'm done reading it. So let's see if you can figure out what they are. But I mean,
Okay.
they're pretty intense. Okay. So here we go. And I love the way that you read things. So I'm almost going to like change my voice a little bit
I
for you.
love the way
There we
you
go.
read things.
Here we go. All three boys spoke Spanish and, or let's do this. All three boys spoke Espanol and Anglais with perfect accents. They were all devastatingly handsome. Oh, wait, we're not talking about me. Sorry.
That's why
Okay.
you wanted to read
And
it.
had that Latin bad boy air of not giving a shit. That's also me. My father and his brother Gabriel carried sawed off shotguns. So it's not the first time we've heard this now in their cars and weren't afraid to have anybody knew it. This attitude made them absolutely irresistible to all the girls in their high school, and I'm sure a few boys. My mom sure found it sexy. They dated for a few months, fell in love. When Renee became pregnant, they got married. It only lasted 18 months, and Nicholas divorced my mother when I was 9 months old. So we go from that excerpt from this, they are handsome. This we're like, tell me more, tell me more. I want pictures of these people
Yeah.
to what they went through dealing with their trauma to then dealing with abandonment, all
Right.
within one excerpt of a book. And I will tell you, if you don't have that going on in your life, it doesn't mean you're boring. However, it does mean there be you may want to understand the grace that we need to give other people because that story alone, take it out.
Well, what's interesting is
Mm,
that her grandfather abandoned Esther, and then her father marries Renee and abandons Renee and Erica at 9 months old when attachment is so, so super important. That's the time when babies and infants are
developmental
just
years.
those developmental years where that parental figure is becoming a permanent object in their life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, so 9 months old, she never knew her father. She never knew him at all. The
What do you think
second
that does? What do you think that does?
not knowing your father?
Yeah. It's such a
Well,
young age. But I love that you just had that gasp right there because I think we forget that that's a big thing.
I don't know I've never known what that's not like. Just like she might never know what it's like to have, or anyone who's been in that situation, to have their father in their
Right.
life continuously. And, and thinking about the grief factor, I don't know what's more devastating is having our father in our life on a day-to-day, object permanent basis, if you will, just permanently in our life. And then they're no longer here versus not having a father in your life or who's been erratically in your life. And then they just like, I think the grief is just both bad. I think that must feel like some part of you is missing. My father's not here. So some part of me feels like it's missing. I imagine for her, probably didn't feel off until she went to school maybe and saw other kids had their fathers and then wonder, "Oh, wait, I feel like something is not I'm not entirely whole." I can only imagine. We can't speak for her, I don't know, but I would imagine that's how that feels just based on my work with kids. That's kind of how they've described it as well. And then for her mom to be abandoned by Nicholas a second time because he comes back in her life after he left when Erica was 9 months old. He comes back into Renee's life and promises her the world, takes her out in the state, says, "We're going to get a house and I and Erica are going to live together. We're going to be a happy family." And this is supposed to all happen the next day, and Renee is left waiting for Nicholas to come, and he never arrives. She ends up calling her sister-in-law, Janet, like, "Have you seen Nicholas?" And Janet says, "Oh, yeah, he went to California." Sight
Just
unseen,
by
right?
the way, just leaves the South, goes to the far West, just like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And so, you know, Erica
So,
mentioned, I have to read these notes, just this one note. She says she didn't think her dad ever wanted to be a dad.
okay,
And
right there,
yeah.
that right there. If we're going to talk about a root for why maybe people behave a certain way, our home is our sanctuary.
Mhm,
When
mhm.
we don't feel like we are a priority in those formative years, in those moments where the world is judging us from the adolescent mindset that they have, right? Or even pre adolescent. When you're not getting that, the wounds are deep, the guards go up. It doesn't excuse people from doing awful things. But if we're just talking about people having a difficult personality, get over it, people. I'm sorry. Get over it. Like, there's a reason why. Not everybody's an introvert, not everybody's an extrovert. When you're dealing with trauma, when you're dealing with, I didn't even feel welcome in my own home. Of course, to the outside world, you're going to be guarded. And why people don't understand that or see grace, I'm glad that you don't see it. I'm glad that you don't understand. I'm glad that you don't know it. I'm glad that you've never felt it. But don't come at me because I didn't have that upbringing. Because right there, that in itself is the problem. It doesn't mean let the person cuss you out. It doesn't mean let the person treat you awful. However, it does mean if they've gone through several rounds of trauma, they probably aren't on the emotional level that you are. And if you're seeking a friendship that's only at your level, if you're seeking whatever it is, but you don't take the time to understand why they're going through what they're going through, then you continue to go and hide behind your keyboard and type whatever it is that you want because that in itself is already cowardly. And I'm going to say it like it is. We don't have the right to judge other people for their trauma and how they respond to it. I'm not talking violence, like I'm talking about words. I'm talking about people in your
Yeah.
life that you go, they are not the friend that I want them to be. Okay, well then you've got to look at that and go, then you got to check yourself and go, but you obviously have a connection with this person. They're not meeting you somewhere, so take the time to get to know why.
You
And
know,
I
and
that's where I'm at.
but taking the time to and to your point about the keyboard warriors in the building,
Oh,
it's super easy to like the post I read today, is super easy to dive in and keep rehearsing and reiterating the same message. In this case, we don't believe this, but Erica's a piece of shit. Erica's a piece of shit. It's so
I don't believe it.
easy to just default to that. It is super hard and it takes a lot of effort to cognitively think about the why. Because anytime you meet somebody, you're going to judge at first, but the emotionally intelligent person is going to, or the person that's trying to invest in emotional intelligence is going to, and social intelligence is going to be like, okay, wait,
Right.
let me understand. Let me understand why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, this right here, this effort right here is super. We could have covered anybody else who was a whole lot easier, right? She's not easy to cover, and it took a lot, and we could have just stopped and says, "No, you know, she did this, she did that, da, 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 the lawsuits and everything.
But
Don't wanna do
here's the
it.
deal.
She's a
We're
terrible
only
person."
we're only
But
halfway done with those 4. So
we're
think
we're
about
only
this.
half
This whole thing, we're
yeah.
only halfway done with those 4.
It took a lot of time for us to research, and we've got the research to research every p and the notebooks of research that we did on her,
Wait, I
you
don't know
know?
what you're talking about. What? I mean,
Yeah,
no,
the
no.
notebook.
We have no, like, we don't know what we're talking about. We haven't researched anything.
Yeah,
No.
well,
Oh,
we had to.
shit,
We had to
right?
understand. We had to understand and watch episodes several times and write down quotes. Okay, now to thread the needle to understand who she was. Now, we're not expecting people to just, oh, I'm going to go and deep dive and do like, 3-inch notebook binder full of research, but at least we would
No,
love just to pause long enough to say, okay, I don't like what I'm seeing, but what is the why? And,
that's it right
if you're
there.
going to call somebody shitty, then let's understand if there's some shitty circumstances we need to uncover. And so we could have definitely picked an easier person, but she's so provocative and interesting because of the layers. And when you unpeel all of what she's been through, she makes a lot of sense. And it has nothing to do with liking her. She just makes it, the story makes sense. The
And
presentation makes sense. I mean,
here's the deal. If she was proven guilty of a lot of this stuff that was going on, and I'm going to bring it up, like Jen Shaw. Okay, if she was proven guilty, would be an entirely different
yeah,
conversation as to, well, okay, she did these
yeah,
right. Erica, Erika Jayne, Erica, not found guilty of any of this, and we're not going to go into the legal, but those are
no,
just the facts.
we're getting there.
People
We're
are
definitely going to be
right,
getting into that for
and
sure.
and people are I think we have this sensationalism of there's got to be a good person, there's got to be a bad
You're a
person.
bad person.
There's black and there's white, but there's no gray. As a matter of fact, most of our life is all about gray, yet
That's where
all
we
we
are
talk
now.
about is black and white. And it
Yeah,
drives me insane.
totally drives me insane. So think about this. Admits that so dad leaves.
Yeah.
twice. She never met her dad up until this point, by the way. The only interaction that she had with him was over the phone, and this is years, years, years later, but the understanding that she didn't think her dad ever wanted to be a dad. And then she has a phone call. Somewhere along the line, Renee gets remarried to her stepdad, John, who we're going to talk about next. And stepdad loves her and wants to adopt her. But in order for that to happen, Nicholas, her biological dad, has to give up parental rights. And her only interaction with him up until this point is a phone call about giving up parental rights. And he asks her, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she awkwardly says, uh, "I
That's all I
guess,"
know.
you know,
That's all
because
I
she
know.
knew it was important to Renee. And if not for her grandmother, Anne, which is Renee's mom, her grandmother, Anne, is a real G. She tried to keep those family ties of of Nicholas's family to get, she wanted Erika to have ties to her biological father's family. And it was Anne and Nicholas's brother, Alejandro, who tried to keep that connection going. And Erika at some point has a second phone call with him, and they catch up over this phone call about, her experiences. She later goes into LA and she meets him, and she describes during this trip in LA, it sounds like they had a really quality for the first time father-daughter experience. I mean, they're driving around in Janet's fast car. They're going shooting, at the gun range. And it was at this point that, yeah, I mean, they're just having a good time of it all. And during her visit with him in LA, he gives her one compliment, and the compliment is, "You shoot like a man." No, 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 no. You drive like
You
a man, not
drive
shoot like
like a
a man.
man. You
That's, you
drive. I was going to
drive
say
like
you
a
drive
man.
like a man.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
But I
And
will tell
and
you,
that's
like,
kind of, huh?
d- but doesn't it sound surface level?
Yeah.
How sad, yes, I'm going to use an adjective for this, that if your best experience is, it sounds surface level, you're just kind of pulling for a compliment, validation, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And uh, when you wonder why people lack empathy, I think that's the whole reason why right there when you grow up and that's what you're considering not important, but you're going, I just want one sentence out of you that maybe can
And,
take all the hurt away. And you
and I'll
can't.
take it. Yeah, and I would take that compliment. I'll take it. If that's what I'm getting, I'll take it. At least he sees me. And that felt good to Erika, I'm sure, because she loved fast cars. We're going to get into that later. She loves fast cars to this day. A lot of
That
it has to
song's
do
in my
with
head now. Charlie Chaplin. Sorry.
Tracy Chapman.
Sorry. Or
Not
Tracy. I
Charlie
said
Chapman.
Charlie. Tracy. I said Charlie because I was saying Chaplin. That's why. Yes. Keep
So
going.
yeah, it wasn't like a soft and fuzzy compliment, but in a way, it spoke to the fact that Erika did like
Yeah.
fast cars and she loved to drive
Hmm.
fast. Uh,
We
so
got a
so she has.
fast car.
So let's go back. So she has the phone. She has the early phone call where dad gives up parental rights. She has a second phone call orchestrated by Anne and her uncle Alejandro, and she comes out to LA and spends time with them. And then seems like hope is alive. He invites her to spend the holidays with him, the holiday Thanksgiving season with him in the Bay Area. By this point, he moves to the Bay Area, and she's introduced to his family. She's introduced to her stepsister Fallon, his coworkers. He was a policeman, and so he is introduced to some of his coworkers there. And similar
But
to,
there's a line there in that book, Elle. There's a line in the book where there is an introduction into it's huge. It's huge. And I just think as a parent, I think there are certain words I would probably never want to hear, like as a child from my parents.
are we talking about the
And
shared experience that she had that's similar to her experience with Hollis, where they go to the gun range?
yeah, I mean,
And he says,
so let me read it to you, okay?
okay.
Because I think it's a massive, massive moment in her life. And if you didn't read the book or if you didn't take the time to research Erika Jayne, you're missing out because this is huge. So, how'd you end up with Fallon? I asked my father, trying to make small talk. Well, he said, Bridget never had any children before, and I never had any children. So, he quickly caught himself, realizing he made a massive mistake. The air became heavy, and it was incredibly silent between us. We really looked into each other's eyes, and we processed everything that was packed into his statement. It rolled me, it rolled over me all at once in a wave that made my arm hair stand on end. In his mind, I almost don't want to read it. I had never existed. He erased me. He had erased me. That right there,
Yeah.
mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. In terms of, I don't think kids ever need to hear that statement. I think it's a shift. I think it's something that could change their trajectory. I think it can change the way when we talk about empathy. We brought this up earlier before with Erika. If I hear my dad going, "I've never had a kid before, and I'm already here, and you're forgetting that I exist, or you're not acknowledging that I exist." Where does the shame? Where does the blame? Where do all of those quote difficult slash hard feelings go? It's like if you throw a ball against a wall, it's going to come back at you. That was thrown so hard that I think the velocity in which it came back was so fast.
Yeah.
I don't even think again you realize what happened.
It's almost like the hypocrisy of hope. Hypocrisy in that
Ooh,
he I yeah, I just made that up. He we're putting things in place or giving her hope, but with each interaction she had with him, he was giving her hope that we could have this coveted father-daughter relationship. And then hypocritically, but it's not really hypocritical, authentically, I guess it was this authentic expression that where he makes this quote that he had never had any children before. I don't even know if
it's
hypocrisy
mind
was like,
boggling.
but it's soul shattering. I had hope, and then and okay, it's like I never existed for you. Can you imagine what that feels like? Even as a young adult, we want to be seen by our parents. We want to be seen by our mothers and our fathers, right? We don't
Don't you
mind
still
taking
want
the
to make your parents proud? I mean,
absolutely,
I still am
absolutely,
that.
whether
So when
here or
I
not.
hear and this past year, Elle, I saved over the last couple of years, I've saved voicemails from my dad. And I
Mhm.
think the best thing that I ever could have done was that because there were certain things that I had sent to him after maybe an accomplishment or an achievement. And then
Yeah,
I would purposely not pick up the phone so that he could leave a message. And I still have those words with me.
yeah,
So when
yeah.
you actually get the words from someone who's a man of few words and you have them, it is life altering. It makes you understand things differently and to hear your existence to not be acknowledged. Yeah, you're going to be tough. Yeah, you're going to lack empathy. And no, that's not, well, then there it is. And we just have to accept it. No, those people are going to have people in their lives like Erica does, where they're going to challenge her and go, "We don't know what it's like to be you. We don't know what it's like to not have empathy, to have that upbringing. Teach us where you're at. We can teach you where we're at." And this is what they do on the Real Housewives, which the dynamics, there are moments where she was soft, but it's going to take a while to get there. But this whole idea of let's just put people on a reality TV show and everybody has the same experience and everybody has the
Mhm.
same lens. Do you know how boring that would be?
Yeah.
It would be boring and it's not representative of really what's going on. I don't care how much money's in your bank account.
I mean,
The money in your bank account does not talk about trauma.
as devastating as this, these reviewing this idea of all these father figures in her life, as devastating as they were in her lives, I think it does add so much depth and context to her. and depth to understanding her personality. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that she had to go through that, but on the other hand, I think it's also made her an incredible, strong person as well. Well, at the same time, you also understand why she doesn't trust, and I think this is what you're saying too, is that, you have abandonment, you have all these empty promises. Why would I trust anybody? Why would I trust anything that anybody has to say? And if not for John, her stepfather, he was really uh the
He
man in
was
her life
handsome.
that was, yeah, he was handsome, but he more importantly had three very important qualities: is that he was super
Wait,
nurturing
by the way,
to her.
what city was he from?
He was from Pittsburgh.
Oh, my hometown. Sorry. Like most devastatingly handsome men are.
Devastatingly
Anyway,
handsome, but he was nurturing, he was stable, he provided financial security, but most importantly, he saw her, and he really catered to that little girl inside. I mean, she describes him as always being very loving and kind. They'd go ice skating, sledding, and doing things that they would not normally be able to do in the South. Had a love for sports, bonded over baseball, and what else? Cars. And she credits him because he had owned a used car lot and would bring home different cars at different times at any moment in time. She credits her love and her lifelong love of fast cars to John. And then John divorces. He marries Renee, and then he divorces her not once but twice, and both times due to infidelity. And even in the midst of the divorce, even after the divorce, to his credit, he really did try to keep Erika a priority. He adopted her, and of course, and that was the point, that she had to talk to her dad about relinquishing parental rights. But somehow the contentiousness of the divorce, the visitation rights were questioned, and so she had decided that he still had parental rights, but she had decided at some point during the visitations that she didn't want to see him anymore. It was too much going back and forth, which is not
well, which
atypical.
was kind of like her another example of maybe abandonment. And I think she put that an excerpt of what she went
She
through
did.
in the
She
book.
did. She did. You guys have to read that. There's a
Actually,
couple of things that
yes, I mean, there's a couple
well,
of things. So,
there's a couple of things where she expressed her kind of outrage at, at him leaving her for the first time. Um, but anyway, so then they resumed contact back in 1989 over a phone call, and she's downloading her life, and she's trying to get into understanding where he's been and all of this, what's been happening. Again, holding out hope that maybe that connection can continue. And then he lowers the hammer and says, I don't think that we should continue contact anymore.
and she actually puts those words in the book. Can I read it? Because I think it's important.
Yes, very important.
I'm sorry, I'm a Pittsburgher. So this makes me sad. The second time the relationship ended wasn't as easy as the first time. Back when my stepfather just took off and I didn't hear from him for a year. And by the way, that kills me because I'm a stepfather. So this time he
Yeah.
had adopted me. He had parental rights. Looking back on it, I think I understand why he felt that way. We'd always had a good relationship. I still think fondly of our time together, riding around in one of his many cars, going to a sporting event, or even just helping him run his errands around town. But he was already dealing with the heartache of his parents dying. The last thing he needed was the charged interaction on top of it. And you know what?
She gave him grace.
She gave him grace while dealing with yet another loss at such a young age. And I
Yeah.
think that in itself, if you ever think that she is not strong, I'm sorry. I almost think, okay, you're going to hate me for even bringing this up, but I don't think she could have handled what she did with Tom. I think there was a certain setup. I think all these things had to happen in her life for her to handle what she just had to deal with, including the public scrutiny and everything else that she's still dealing with. When you deal with these levels of losses, of abandonment, of in some forms betrayal, sadness, all these heavy emotions that we try to protect and shield our kids from at such a young age, and they feel them and they deal with them the best way they know how. I don't think Erica could be where she is right now if she wasn't able to do that. And what a very courageous thing. If you think that putting your life out there for people to read in a book is a easy thing to do,
Yeah.
let's go. Let's go. Because I guarantee you, everybody else behind the keyboard right now, your trauma, oh no, they made the choice to be out there. No, 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 we're not talking about that because now you're putting your keyboard out there. You're talking crap about someone, but yet you don't want your life. You don't want your story being told because there's comfort in anonymity.
Mhm.
When, whether you're male, female, I don't care who you are, you
Yeah.
put your
It does.
life out there. You want to talk about strength? That's strength. To say to put out there to other people, I didn't have it all, but I'm not making excuses. I think she does that.
Yeah, I think she does too. We talk about, you know, character arcs. Last week we talked about lifespan arc, but now I think we can even say that what we just talked about is really like an abandonment arc as
Abandonment
well.
arc.
You have her paternal grandfather who met her once and tells Anne, stop sending pictures, stop sending anything that reminds me of Erica, stop sending them. And so, like, just by de facto abandoned. Biological father leaves her at 9 months old, completely denies her existence, and then kind of abandons her again in her young adulthood. So that was like twice. I didn't even think about that. And then her stepfather, John, leaves her not once, but twice, but at least he tried. At least he tried. And so when you think about that abandonment arc, to your point, it has built up this kind of armor to kind of weather the storm of
As we're leading
relationships.
into as we're leading into the abandonment that she might feel right now towards, can I say it? Her marriage.
Yeah. Yes. And what's interesting about that is the way John left, he literally cleaned out because he was the breadwinner, right? For the most part. And so, I mean, they lived a very middle class lifestyle. Renee was working, I forgot what she did for a living, but he was kind of the primary breadwinner there. And when he left, he cleaned out their checking account, leaving Renee with nothing. She didn't have enough money. Renee didn't have enough money to pay for the mortgage,
Kind
to
of
keep
like
the
a
lights on.
frozen bank account.
Yeah, kinda like a frozen bank account. Couldn't keep the lights on, couldn't pay for a car, couldn't buy uh, Christmas presents. Erica recounts that she says that the day that her stepfather left was hard. She said Renee sat in a chair in the living room wearing a pair of shorts and a purple polo shirt. I love how she has to name the fashion. But
Hey,
she was
I like
sobbing.
it too.
She was sobbing into her hands. Her face was pressed into the side of the chair. I thought, and I will never forget this, I don't ever want to be like that. I love my mother, but in that moment, I saw her as weak. I knew that she could survive without a man, but she wanted a partner so badly that she let him ruin her life. And then it
But as
doesn't
a
sound a
mom,
lot
it's
like
not
what
about
happened with
just about the
Tom.
mom. When they say history repeats itself,
History
I
definitely
mean,
repeats.
can we cheers to that? Because I really think
I
that's,
have tea, yes.
well, me too. Just it's a Long Island version, I'm sure. But the whole, all right. But I
It's just so super
we
sad, like,
have,
I mean, it's
yeah.
super sad. It goes back to what we were talking about last week, is that you can try so hard to control circumstances that history doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes history does repeat itself, without her, like, even wanting it to. And
And
Tom.
history repeating itself earlier in your life versus later in life, right? I get, but there are sometimes that history repeats itself within a 2 year gap, a 5 year
Yeah,
gap. But when we're talking about you think you have it figured out, and then it happens multiple decades later, and you go, did this shit just happen again?
yeah.
It's a different feeling.
She literally said, "I will never forget this. I don't ever want to be like that. I love my mother, but in that moment, I saw her as weak." So now when present day, circle back to the Girardi of it all, one of the reasons why it was probably really, I'm assuming, really important for her not to emote weakness or because she didn't
Empathy.
want to be seen as weak. And by the way, that was an attribute that Renee inculcated in her, like even before the fathers of it all.
Deal with it. Deal with it.
Weak, don't be weak, deal with the circumstances, deal with it, deal with it, deal with it. So it's she's starting to, when you're putting these little puzzle pieces of her life together, particularly this abandonment arc of it all, it kind of makes sense. And it really super makes sense why it was really difficult for her to experience this Tom thing because it happened to her mother. Now it's happening to her. But unlike my mother, I'm going to be the pinnacle of strength, even at the cost of me appearing cold. I promised myself I would never appear weak.
And by the way, so I like what you said with cold and weak. And now, look, now you get public scrutiny. You put yourself out there, and now people associate you with something that they don't even have the information about. They just hear the allegedness. And we've talked about this in prior episodes about, are you guilty until proven innocent, or guilty or innocent until proven guilty? And you know, when you are struggling to find identity, acceptance, I almost think you spend most of your life looking at the world going, everybody already views me as guilty. Everybody already views me as someone that they can chastise. If you don't think that takes an emotional toll on your soul, on your heart, on your relationships, then you know what? Good for you for never having to experience it. But that's not everybody out there. And just because they sign on to a show, just because they have a certain amount of money in their bank account, does not stop them from trauma, does not stop them from the ability to tell a story. As a matter of fact, when you have that money and you have that notoriety, your ability to get that platform out there, up until the day and age of TikTok and everything else that we got going on right now, that was the way to do it. So
Yeah.
I don't think I, my favorite thing to do, and I hope we all do this, I hope this is the whole point of the podcast. When we talk about giving someone a good edit, the good edit is the why. And
It's a contextual factor.
sometimes the why isn't always good. I think people see the word good and they think that it just means good. No. When we get to the why, you get to the truth. And the truth sets you free. But until we
Right.
get to that point right there is no good edit. All we have are allegations. All we have are assumptions. And when you live your life and you treat people off of allegations and assumptions, we're talking surface level
Right.
relationships with people. And you know what? That's not the best way to live your life.
No, it's not. It's easy. I mean, for example, it's not an accusation, but it's definitely an assumption. Next week we'll be talking about the Tom of it all. And people would be
Oh,
very, yeah, and I'm super excited to get into that. It is very temptingly easy to suggest that the reason why she married Tom, who is obviously 33 older than her, which by the way, her first husband was very close to her age. Tom just happened to be the next husband who happened to be 33 years older. And it's very
right.
easy to suggest that she was looking for her father figure. But she had a lot of really good feelings about Tom. She loved Tom and she admired him because he was really smart. One thing, Erica, that always comes out in this book is that she really admires people who are super smart, who are super decisive, and just having an incredible brain. She loves the idea of learning. And so Tom had definitely was another stable figure who maybe, as we'll come to see, provided some stability, not only wealth, and that's another easily suggested. Well, she married him for the money. You don't know that. Okay. You don't know that. He just had, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But what we're really focusing on is that there was love in her heart for him. And she says that she loved having somebody who really knows his shit. He has an incredible brain. She says that Tom's age doesn't really count for those Tom's age alone doesn't count for those qualities. She mentions that many of the men that I've been in relationships have been much closer to my age, but it's the fact that Tom being 33 is just the way the blueprint of her life just worked out. So one thing I admire her about, and I can't wait to get into the Tom of it all, but she ends up saying that she's not so far away from the father figure issues. It doesn't hurt as much anymore. She admits that in those moments, it was really excruciating, to experience that, but the pain, she recognizes that she can't stay in that pain. It can't, you gotta move
No.
on. You gotta let it wash over you. You gotta let it pass. If you don't, it's gonna drown you, and you just kind of have just rigor mortis of life, if you will. And
Did you
so
just say rigor mortis?
yeah, rigor mortis of life. I mean, and that's what that means to me is like, if you just let pain, if I let the pain of my father just stay with me and I don't
Okay.
pick up and move, move past it, my life becomes almost like a dead body, rigor mortis, just stuck. I'm stuck and I can't
Harden,
move and I'm not
harden, harden.
pardon, right? So that funeral yesterday, I pushed through to be at that funeral. It's the first one I've been to since my dad passed away because it was important for me to be there. And you know what? I grew from it. And so I believe what Erica's trying to say here is that, yes, I experienced all of this terrible pain. It was a shitty experience. It was excruciatingly shitty, but I moved past it because I have to transcend.
And we've got to
And she
get
did.
into the
And you're
Tom of
going
it
to find out
all
that she did.
on our
Mhm.
on our future episode. We've got to get into the Tom of it all because that's
Yeah,
I try
that's
saying
where it
the
all lands.
Tom of it all 5 times really fast.
Yeah.
Don't try it. So wow, but I agree with you 100%.
I love how she says, "I have to transcend those people, the pain they brought me. I have to keep walking forward. I have to do the best that I can and hope that everything I've learned from these men help me do things better than they did." And I think she's transcending again. We'll get into all of that, but she's trying to dig her way out of it. She took the hits. She's digging her way out of it, and she's trying to reinvent herself. And honestly, DJ Pretty Miss has never looked better. She's doing her thing in spite and despite all of the public scrutiny. She really just doesn't care about your comments. She's got a life to live, and she hopes that you live yours too.
And you know what? I think that's her best good edit.
I think so too.
Just saying
So that is it. It's always a
for
pleasure. I
today.
gotta go. I gotta get ready for Christmas stuff. Yes, join us next week as we get into the Tom of it all. And where can you find us?
TGE underscore. Don't spell it out. Just put it there. The good edits. Instagram.
And that's on Instagram and on YouTube, the Good Edit 25. And also you can listen to us on wherever you get your podcast.
Well,
Follow
Merry
us
Christmas Eve,
and have
Eve,
a
and
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas Eve, and Merry Christmas. And as we head
I
into
love you.
2026, all I can say just simply is this: I hope that 2026 is a year of peace, harmony, love, gratification, success, joy, because I think we need more of all of those in the world right now. And most importantly, I want all of those for you above me. And I hope that that continues to happen because you deserve it.
And in the spirit of Erica, let's transcend. Let's transcend through the pain
Yes.
and move to the light. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. May every edit that you have be a
Bye.
graceful one. Bye.